right, everybody. We're at Kahia Creek Motocross Track and Off-Road Trails, and we're at the 2022 Honda CRF250RX intro.
Yep.
I love RXs.
Yep.
Because they're motocross bikes built for off-road. I especially love the 250RX. I have a little history with the 250RX.
Let's hear it.
A couple years ago, I raced a GNCC in Indiana on one, and it was really muddy and gross.
Oh, I remember that.
And I couldn't believe the little bike made it. It was completely stock. It was brutal conditions, but I've always been a fan of the Honda 250 off-road platform, the previous X models, that little 250X, old gen carbureted bike. Really fun bike. I had a lot of fun with that in the past, raced it a few times.
I think it's cool what they're doing. I think they're really taking aim at what KTM's done with the XCF, what Yamaha's done with their FX. These are, based very closely off the motocross platform, but geared for guys who want to race off-road or guys who maybe don't race, I guess.
Just ride off-road mostly.
Ride off-road.
I mean, if you're riding in Ocotillo or you're riding in the high desert in Southern California, or you're riding sort of like deserty terrain in Idaho, Utah, Nevada, an RX makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. It has a kickstand, it has an 18-inch rear wheel, it has a bigger fuel tank so you can get more miles in. You're not confined to a track-only scenario. It's really designed for closed course competition. So it's made for WORCS races, NGPC races, GNCC races, anything where anything you start behind a starting gate, or somebody waves a flag and you go, it's for you. If you're getting into the enduro side of things, where you're on single track primarily, or really rocky rooted terrain, or anything on the extreme side, it's still going to be a little too hard edged on the motocross side. But this is like the WORCS racing closed course competition, Grand Prix moto bike to get, the RX line. All new 250 this year is getting all the changes that the 250R got.
And that's what's cool is the CRF250R, we obviously like that platform a lot. What they've done, it's an all new bike, new motor, new frame. It's all to match the CRF450. And so all those changes were very well received when we rode that bike a few months ago. And then now it gets the RX upgrade. So it gets the handguards. I think there's a 2.1 gallon fuel tank, an 18-inch rear wheel, specified ECU settings, suspension settings, all like you said, geared for off-road Grand Prix style racing.
Really improving the 250RX substantially. The one I raced in Indiana, it had historically had a little bit of overheating and clutch issues, even though it miraculously didn't do that when I was in the mud. Mark Samuel's racing team is here today. And they have a really good case study in this. They won both of the Pro 2 or 250 Pro, whatever the 250cc versions of West Coast off-road racing is in NGPC and WORCS. Talon LaFontaine won both of those championships last year. And Mark Samuels said bluntly, we had to do a lot of work to the 250RX to be competitive against the KTMs of the world and the Husqvarnas and the other guys that are out there racing that class. A lot of work to make it as fast as those bikes and durable, because it had overheating issues. Clutch issues were fading really quick.
Well, I think we see the same thing with the Honda HRC motocross and supercross team. The previous generation Honda, they were putting a lot of effort into that bike to make it competitive. And now with the new platform, it's a lot easier.
It's a lighter weight bike. It has 20% more power right in the mid-range at 6,500 RPM.
It's a lot.
It's got upgraded ECU settings. The whole thing is new. And Mark's team, Slam Life Racing, went out this year in NGPC.
Round one.
Stock bike with suspension mods, but on stock components, and an ECU remap or ECU tuning. And Simpson, their young guy from Australia, gets second place.
Second place on a stock bike. That's pretty impressive, especially at the pro level. A lot of those guys are getting support. And for him to throw down on a stock bike, that says a lot.
I mean, that's a testament to the improvements on the stock 250R Honda. Whether it's an R or an RX, really. You're going to have the same benefits come out. The RX is going to have a little bit different tune on the ECU across the board. It's going to be a little mellower, a little more broader power in all three of the maps you can select. Same with the suspension. In fact, the rear shock spring rate is 2 rates lower than the R, and the front is 1 rate lower, I believe. And then all the internal settings on valving are lighter resistance valving for easier over rougher obstacles sort of things.
So what'd you think about it?
I really like the new ECU changes. I like the grunty power, the snappy power on the 250. I think if you're having a 250 and off-road, you need to have that little bit of a aggressive power, or you're going to just be fighting yourself all day against guys that are modifying their motor to do that.
Yep.
Right? You need to have a somewhat aggressive power, because sometimes a pass and off-road situation is in a tight spot where you have to squirt by them in a hurry to get next to a tree, or maybe it's around a rock garden, or maybe it's before you get into the pit chicane or something like that. You want to get in there and you need that little snap to get in. The 250 doesn't do it enough to tire you out.
Right.
I tried all 3 modes today a bunch of different times, but it's exciting and it's fun and it complements the chassis really well.
Yeah, I was really happy with the bike all around. We rode some trails today and a little bit of the moto track. I think the bike is a little bit softer, but softer in the right places. Easy to get through that tight stuff. A lot of it here is really tight and twisty, kind of single track. I'd love to get this out on like a wide open trail, you know, more of a Grand Prix setting. But even on the moto track, it was good. The bike's a little bit softer, but most guys who are serious about racing are going to get their suspension anyways. So to have the bigger tank, the handguards, the 18-inch rear wheel, I think those are all, you know, mods that a guy who's going to buy an R are already going to make. So for it to come stock is just really nice. Yeah,
I think the RX is a perfect platform if you're considering racing and off-road. Even if it's a sprint enduro or a national hare and hound, it's a good platform to go with. A little bit of sidebar, we rode the 450RX today too. It's not as drastically improved, so it's not as headlining of a new model introduction. It's got an ECU reflash modification in line with the 450R. And it's just a beast.
It's same thing. It comes with the 18-inch rear wheel, the 2.1 gallon fuel tank, handguards, kickstand, etc.
All the RX upgrades.
Yeah, and with that ECU flash, we all know the 21 Honda had that little bit of a, you know, ECU
hesitation,
whatever you want to call it, right?
So
now that it gets that same, that same thing.
A 450RX in the tight stuff is a handful for sure. The hydraulic clutch isn't that easy to pull.
Of the hydraulic
it starts
clutches,
wearing you out. Where the 250RX, the new 6-plate clutch,
they added an extra plate too.
Super easy.
And it's still a cable pull, which actually makes it a lot easier. I'm a fan of the hydraulic clutch, but of all the hydraulic clutches in the field right now, the Honda is the lowest.
The 450RX is a bit of a beast for this stuff. If you see these guys racing it in the pro WORCS class and that kind of stuff, they're beasts, and you know they're riding bikes a lot faster than we are.
It's very fast. It would be really, you know, if you're racing in a 450 class, it's definitely the bike to have. It's definitely it's one of the faster bikes that we've ridden. But for off-road racing, that's a great platform again as well.
So that's it from the RX intro here. We've got more plans with this 250. We're going to line it up to some races and do some light modifications and suspension mods, maybe exhaust, to see if it makes any difference. But right now we're really happy with it. Thanks to Honda for having us out, and you know, check out the story in the magazine soon.
Cool. See you guys
later.